Tonight, we begin our deep dive into a case that shocked a quiet Indiana community in December 2018, the murder of Breana Rouhselang. This is a story set in Mishawaka, a city just east of South Bend, where Breana, a 17-year-old high school cheerleader and football team manager, was found dead under chilling circumstances. The accused? Aaron Trejo, just 16 years old, a promising football player and someone Breana knew well.
That's already so heavy, Harper. How did Breana and Aaron know each other? Were they friends, or was there something more going on between them?
Their relationship was more complicated than it seemed on the surface. Breana managed the Mishawaka High School football team. Aaron was one of its players. Throughout the fall of 2018, rumors swirled among students that the two were involved in a secret relationship. It wasn't public, mostly whispers in locker rooms and hallways. By late November, Breana was 6 months pregnant, something even her parents didn't know.
6 months? And her family didn't know she was pregnant? That must have been such a shock. How did her parents find out, and what happened the night she went missing?
The night of December 8, 2018, stands out. Breana's mother, Nicole Rouhselang, last saw her daughter at home around 11 p.m. Breana said she was stepping outside to meet someone but never returned. Nicole woke up around 1 a.m. and found Breana's room empty. Panic set in immediately. Nicole called friends, checked social media, then walked several blocks in the freezing Indiana night to Aaron Trejo's house, desperate for answers.
That's heartbreaking. What did Aaron say when Breana's mom showed up at his house looking for her?
According to police records, Aaron told Nicole he hadn't seen Breana that night. He appeared calm, almost detached. Nicole sensed something was off. She immediately reported Breana missing to Mishawaka police. Officers started their search within hours. By morning, they discovered a pair of glasses and a hat with what looked like blood in an alley behind Breana's home.
That's a chilling detail. So the investigation started right away that morning. What did the police do next, and how did they find Breana?
The Mishawaka police canvassed the area, following a trail of blood from the alley. Their search led them behind a local restaurant, Pasquale Ruli's, just blocks from Breana's house. There, in a dumpster, they found Breana's body. She was partially covered by a black plastic bag. The autopsy later revealed multiple stab wounds and evidence of strangulation with her own scarf.
That's so brutal. Was there any indication at that point who might have done it? Or was Aaron already a suspect?
Aaron quickly became a person of interest. Investigators learned he was likely the last person to see Breana alive. Police brought him in for questioning, and his story began to unravel. He initially claimed he'd only reached out to check on Breana and that she never responded. But inconsistencies emerged, like his claim that he didn't have a phone service plan, which was false.
That's a strange thing to lie about. Did the police confront him with the evidence they'd found?
Detectives pressed Aaron on the physical evidence, the blood-stained items, and the location of the body. Under pressure, Aaron admitted to arguing with Breana over her pregnancy. He confessed that neither of them wanted the baby and that she had waited too long to tell him for an abortion to be possible. Aaron said he'd brought a knife from home, planning for about a week to kill Breana and the baby.
That's just unimaginable. Did he say how he carried it out? And what happened to the weapon?
Aaron told investigators he stabbed Breana in the heart with the knife he brought and used her scarf to strangle her. He said he chose the knife to kill Breana quickly and admitted to bringing the black plastic bag specifically to cover her head afterward. After the murder, Aaron disposed of Breana's phone and the knife in a nearby river, hoping to destroy evidence.
The level of planning is so disturbing. Did anyone notice anything strange about Aaron's behavior leading up to the night of the murder?
Several classmates later recalled that Aaron seemed withdrawn and tense in the days before. Some said he avoided Breana at school. Others mentioned he was unusually quiet at football practice. Still, no one suspected he was capable of violence, let alone murder. Teachers described him as a decent student, not prone to outbursts or aggression.
What about Breana? What was she like? Did anyone notice changes in her behavior as her pregnancy progressed?
Breana was well-liked, known for her outgoing personality and dedication to sports. She managed the football team, played softball, and was a cheerleader, a busy, vibrant teenager. Friends said she was more withdrawn in the weeks before her death, confiding in only a few close friends about her pregnancy. She worried what people would think, and clearly she hadn't told her family.
It sounds like she was under so much pressure and so alone in those final weeks. Were there any warning signs or red flags that might have helped someone intervene?
In hindsight, there were subtle signs: her withdrawal from social activities, missed classes, and reluctance to talk about her relationship with Aaron. But nothing overt enough to trigger alarm. School counselors later said Breana had never sought help or reported any threats. The secrecy of the pregnancy played a huge role in how isolated she felt.
After finding Breana's body and Aaron's confession, what were the immediate next steps in the investigation? Did police recover any physical evidence tying Aaron to the crime?
Investigators collected the knife Aaron claimed to have thrown into the river, though recovery efforts were ongoing for days. The glasses and blood-stained hat in the alley were matched to Breana. Forensic analysis revealed Aaron's fingerprints on the plastic bag used to cover her. Autopsy results confirmed the cause of death: multiple stab wounds and strangulation. The timeline, cell phone records, and Aaron's confession all aligned.
That's so brutal. Was there anything recovered from her phone? Did it provide more clues about their communication or her state of mind?
Breana's phone wasn't immediately recovered. Aaron told police he'd thrown it into the river alongside the knife. However, investigators obtained her phone records. Texts between her and Aaron showed tense conversations about the pregnancy. Forensic examiners pieced together deleted messages, revealing Breana's glowing anxiety and Aaron's frustration in the days leading up to the murder.
That paints such a detailed picture of what both of them were going through. How did the community react when news of Breana's death and Aaron's arrest broke?
The Mishawaka community was stunned. Breana's classmates described her as a friend to everyone, and Aaron, the quiet football player, seemed an unlikely suspect. Vigils were held at the high school, and a GoFundMe was set up to help Breana's family with funeral expenses. Local news outlets covered the story extensively, and grief counselors were brought into the school.
Did Breana's family speak out publicly? What did they say about her and about what happened?
Breana's mother, Nicole Rouhselang, told reporters, "We're just in shock, really. We're in disbelief that this is going on." Her stepmother echoed, "She didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves this." They hadn't known about the pregnancy or her relationship with Aaron. Their focus became seeking justice for Breana and her unborn child.
How did Aaron's family respond? Was there any indication from them about what might have led him to do this?
Aaron's parents kept a low profile, cooperating with investigators but declining public comment. There were no reported history of violence or abuse in his home. Detectives described the Trejo family as shocked and devastated, unable to reconcile the Aaron they knew with the crime he confessed to.
What charges did Aaron face, and how did the legal process begin?
Aaron Trejo was charged as an adult, due to Indiana law for defendants 16 or older accused of murder. He faced 1 count of murder and 1 count of feticide, the destruction or abortion of a fetus. At his first court appearance, he pleaded not guilty. The judge ordered he be held without bond. His arraignment took place in St. Joseph County Superior Court, with media present.
Feticide. That's a specific charge for killing an unborn baby, right? Was that applied here because Breana was 6 months pregnant?
Exactly. Indiana law allows for a feticide charge if a person knowingly or intentionally kills a fetus. Since Breana was around 6 months pregnant and Aaron admitted he intended to kill both her and the baby, prosecutors pursued both charges. This raised the emotional stakes of the case even further.
Did Aaron have an attorney or legal representation at this early stage? How did he act in court?
At his initial appearance, Aaron was represented by a public defender. He appeared calm and expressionless as the judge led the charges. He answered questions in a soft voice, showing little emotion. Some courtroom observers remarked on his blank demeanor, contrasting with the raw grief of Breana's family.
What about the autopsy and forensic findings? Were there any surprising details that emerged from the medical examiner's report?
The autopsy was thorough. It confirmed Breana died from multiple stab wounds, primarily to the chest. The scarf used in the strangulation was tied so tightly that it showed marks consistent with asphyxiation before she died. The examiner noted the wound's depth and trajectory, consistent with a single-edged kitchen knife, the kind Aaron described bringing from home.
Did forensic experts find any evidence to suggest Breana tried to fight back or defend herself?
The report documented defensive wounds on Breana's hands and arms, showing she struggled during the attack. Fingernail scrapings were collected for DNA analysis, though Aaron's confession and fingerprints on the bag made his involvement clear. The evidence painted a picture of a violent struggle in the alley before Aaron dragged her to the dumpster.
That's so hard to hear. How did investigators reconstruct the timeline of the night? Did security cameras or witnesses play a role?
Investigators pieced together the timeline using multiple sources: cell phone records, witness statements, and surveillance footage from nearby businesses. Cameras captured Aaron walking near the alley around midnight. Witnesses reported hearing raised voices, a brief scream, and then silence. These accounts, combined with forensic evidence, established the sequence of events.
Did any of Breana or Aaron's friends come forward with information that helped the investigation?
Several friends were interviewed. One friend told police Breana had confided in her about the pregnancy, saying Aaron was angry and didn't want the baby. Another classmate recalled Aaron asking about abortion laws in Indiana in the weeks leading up to the murder. These testimonies corroborated Aaron's confession and the prosecution's theory of motive.
Was there any history of violence or threats between them before this night? Did anyone report concerns to school officials or the police?
No prior reports of violence. The autopsy revealed Breana died from multiple stab wounds, one piercing her heart. Additionally, her scarf had been tied so tightly around her neck that strangulation occurred before death. The medical examiner stated strangulation was occurring before Breana died. There was evidence of a struggle, defensive wounds on her hands and arms. The autopsy also confirmed she was 6 months pregnant at the time.
Did the investigators find any other evidence at the scene, like fingerprints, DNA, or possible murder weapons?
While the murder weapon, a knife, was missing, police did find blood matching Breana's on the ground, her glasses, and clothing fibers entangled in her scarf. There were partial fingerprints on the black plastic bag, later matched to Aaron Trejo. Forensic teams scoured the area for the missing knife and Breana's phone, which Aaron later admitted to throwing into a nearby river. Divers were deployed, but neither was recovered immediately.
How did Aaron Trejo respond to all this? Did he cooperate with the police during questioning, or did his story change?
Initially, Aaron denied seeing Breana that night, claiming she never arrived. He said he messaged her, but she didn't reply. Though police found inconsistencies, like him saying he had no phone service when cell records showed he did. During questioning, Aaron grew quiet and withdrawn, pausing for long stretches. When confronted with physical evidence, he eventually admitted they fought about the pregnancy, saying Breana waited too long to tell him. He confessed to planning the murder for a week and described stabbing her in the heart.
That confession must have been chilling. Did he give any insight into his mindset or why he planned the murder for so long?
Aaron told detectives neither he nor Breana wanted the baby and blamed her for waiting too long to reveal the pregnancy, making abortion impossible. He said, "I took action. I took her life." He admitted bringing the knife and plastic bag from home, choosing the knife because he thought it would kill Breana quickly. He described methodically placing her body in the dumpster and disposing of evidence in the river.
That level of premeditation is so disturbing. Did anyone in his life notice changes in his behavior before the murder? Any signs of planning?
Friends and teammates noticed Aaron seemed distracted and withdrawn in the week leading up to the murder. He skipped a few practices, citing headaches. His aunt later mentioned he suffered a concussion a few months earlier, speculating it might have affected his mental state, but there's no official evidence linking the injury to his actions. No one suspected he was planning violence. His demeanor was described as quiet, but nothing out of the ordinary.
After his confession, how did the community respond, both at the school and in the broader Mishawaka area?
The shockwaves were immediate. Mishawaka High canceled classes for counseling sessions. Students gathered for vigils, leaving notes and flowers near the school entrance. The football team held a moment of silence for Breana. The community was stunned. Both families received an outpouring of support, but also online harassment. Aaron's relatives pleaded for understanding, insisting, "We didn't do nothing wrong." The tragedy forced difficult conversations about teen pregnancy, mental health, and violence.
Were there any expert opinions included in the investigation? Psychologists, social workers, or forensic specialists weighing in?
Yes, the court brought in forensic psychologists to evaluate Aaron Trejo's state of mind. They noted he showed signs of suppressed anger and emotional detachment, but was fully aware of his actions. Child services and social workers conducted interviews with both families. Forensic specialists provided detailed analysis of the crime scene, explaining the sequence of events based on blood spatter, the tightness of the scarf, and defensive wounds. Their testimony would later be key in court.
Did investigators uncover any other motives, or was everything centered around the pregnancy and fear of exposure?
The overwhelming consensus, based on Aaron's confession and text messages, was that the motive revolved around the pregnancy, specifically his anger at losing the option for abortion and fear of his reputation being damaged. There was no evidence of other motives, like jealousy, financial stress, or previous violence. The prosecution later pointed to his calculated planning, calling it cold and deliberate.
Did Breana leave behind any messages, notes, or communications that provided insight into her state of mind before the meeting?
Investigators found texts on her phone expressing worry to a close friend. "He's really mad. I don't know what to do." She also messaged another friend earlier that week about feeling scared, but didn't specify why. There were no suicide notes or long letters, just these fragments of anxiety in her digital footprint. Her internet search history showed research on pregnancy and legal rights for minors.
What happened in the immediate aftermath? How did police secure evidence, and what steps did they take to build their case?
Police executed search warrants at both Aaron's and Breana's homes, collecting clothing, computers, and phones. Forensic techs analyzed the blood patterns and fibers. Digital forensics traced deleted texts and app activity. Cell tower data placed Aaron at the scene during the critical hour. The partial fingerprints on the trash bag, blood on his clothes, and his confession formed the backbone of the case. They also sought surveillance footage from nearby homes and businesses.
Were any other suspects considered, or was the focus on Aaron from the start?
Aaron was the prime suspect almost immediately, given his connection to Breana and their planned meeting. Investigators briefly considered other possibilities, stranger abduction, jealousy from a third party, but those theories lost traction when Aaron's alibi fell apart and forensic evidence mounted. No additional suspects were ever publicly named.
Did the investigation reveal anything about Breana's life that surprised her friends or family? Any secrets or aspects of her character that came to life?
The biggest revelation was how effectively Breana had hidden her pregnancy, a shock to her family, friends, and teachers. It highlighted her independence, but also her fear and vulnerability. Some friends expressed guilt for not seeing the signs. Her family learned she'd been researching adoption options, indicating she was considering her future and her baby, despite the overwhelming stress she faced.
Looking back, were there any warning signs or missed opportunities where intervention might have changed the outcome?
Experts later noted that both teens showed signs of distress, Breana's withdrawal, Aaron's agitation, but the signals went unrecognized. School counselors admitted they weren't aware of the situation. Social workers suggested that more open communication and support systems for teen parents could have made a difference. The tragedy spurred local schools to implement more proactive counseling and outreach for students in crisis.
What about the broader legal and community response? Did the case lead to any changes in policy or school procedures?
Following the tragedy, Mishawaka High reviewed its crisis intervention protocols. The district increased mental health resources, brought in grief counselors, and started awareness campaigns about teen pregnancy and relationship violence. The case also sparked statewide discussions about mandatory reporting, student safety, and support for pregnant teens. Some state legislators called for stricter penalties for juvenile offenders in violent crimes.
Did Aaron Trejo's mental health ever come up as a significant factor in the investigation or court proceedings?
His mental state was evaluated by court-appointed psychologists, but they found no evidence of severe mental illness or incapacity. His aunt mentioned a previous concussion, speculating about its impact, but medical experts found no clinical basis to link it to his violent actions. The court concluded that Aaron was competent and criminally responsible, fully understanding the consequences of his actions.
With all this evidence and information, what was the final timeline leading up to the murder on December 8, 2018?
The final timeline is meticulous. On December 8th, Breana spent the day at home, texting friends about schoolwork. Around 11 p.m., she told her mother she was meeting Aaron in the alley behind her house. At approximately midnight, a neighbor saw two figures in the alley. Around 12:30 a.m., muffled voices and a struggle were reported. By 1 a.m., Breana hadn't returned, prompting Jessica's frantic search. By 4:30 a.m., police were notified, and by 9 a.m., her body was discovered in the dumpster, a chilling end to a life full of promise.
That timeline is haunting. Were there any final witness statements or pieces of evidence that stood out to investigators as particularly important?
Yes, the partial fingerprints on the plastic bag, the blood-stained hat and glasses, and Aaron's confession were pivotal. Witnesses recalling the alley activity and the discovery of Breana's phone location data helped lock in the timeline. The autopsy's revelation about strangulation and stab wounds tied directly to details in Aaron's confession, leaving little room for doubt. Each piece formed a puzzle that tragically told a complete story. In the early hours of December 9, 2018, Mishawaka, Indiana was just waking up when Breana Rouhselang's mother realized something was terribly wrong. Breana, only 17 and 6 months pregnant, hadn't come home. Her mother called friends, neighbors, and searched the area, panic growing with each unanswered call and text. By 4:30 a.m., she contacted the Mishawaka Police Department, reporting Breana missing and describing her daughter's last known whereabouts on East Mishawaka Avenue.
That must have been terrible for her mother. How did police respond after getting the call? Did they treat it as a typical runaway, or did they suspect foul play right away?
Officers arrived at the Rouhselang residence just after dawn. Breana was responsible, rarely stayed out late, and her phone was off, a major red flag. Given her pregnancy and age, police immediately escalated the case, canvassing the neighborhood for witnesses. They questioned friends and classmates, focusing on Aaron Trejo, a 16-year-old football player at Mishawaka High and the father of Breana's unborn child.
When did Aaron Trejo first come up in the investigation? Was he already on the police's radar, or did someone mention him to officers?
Trejo surfaced quickly. Breana's mother told officers about their complicated relationship and recent arguments over the pregnancy. Police learned that Breana had left the house around midnight, intending to meet Trejo in the alley behind her home. When officers contacted Trejo, he claimed he hadn't seen Breana that night, maintaining he'd reached out only to check on her but didn't meet her as planned.
Did investigators believe Trejo right away, or did his story raise suspicions? How did they proceed with him?
Detectives were immediately skeptical. Trejo's demeanor was flat and his story inconsistent. He claimed he didn't have cell service and could only message Breana over Wi-Fi, yet phone records showed he had an active plan. Officers asked him to message.
What were some of the key investigative steps taken by police to ensure all evidence was preserved and the case was airtight?
Investigators meticulously documented every piece of evidence, from the blood spatter patterns to digital data. Crime scene photos, chain of custody logs, and forensic reports were compiled. Detectives interviewed over 30 witnesses and secured court orders for digital records. The St. Joseph County Metro Homicide Unit coordinated efforts, ensuring no detail was overlooked.
Did police look into Breana's background for any other possible threats or issues, or was the focus solely on Trejo?
Police did a thorough background check on Breana's relationships and recent activities. They found no evidence of threats from anyone else. Her friends described her as focused on school and her future, excited but anxious about the baby. The investigation found no indication of gang involvement, bullying, or other risk factors beyond the conflict with Trejo.
What about the wider school community? Did Mishawaka High School take any immediate steps to support students or address concerns?
Mishawaka High School mobilized quickly. Counseling sessions were set up for students and faculty, security was increased, and administrators met with parents to address concerns. The school's crisis response team worked with local mental health professionals, recognizing the deep trauma caused by Breana's murder and the shockwaves through the student body.
Did the investigation reveal anything about how Trejo obtained the weapon or planned the logistics?
Trejo admitted to police that he took a kitchen knife from his home, hiding it in his jacket as he walked to meet Breana. He also brought the black plastic bag, intending to conceal her body. Digital forensics found search history related to how to kill quickly and disposing of evidence, highlighting the calculated nature of his actions.
That's incredibly chilling. Did experts comment on how rare or unusual it is for a teenager to commit such a premeditated act?
Criminologists and psychologists agreed that while teen violence is not unheard of, the level of premeditation and the killing of a pregnant peer is extremely rare. Cases involving feticide, especially among teens, are statistically uncommon. Experts stress the need for early intervention in cases of teen pregnancy and domestic conflict.
What was the timeline for the next steps in the legal process after the arraignment? How soon would the community see further developments?
After the arraignment, the court scheduled preliminary hearings to address legal representation, evidence admissibility, and bail. Prosecutors began building their case, preparing for a trial that would draw statewide attention. Trejo remained in custody, with all eyes on the upcoming proceedings and the search for justice for Breana and her unborn child.
After Breana Rouhselang was reported missing in the early hours of December 9, 2018, Mishawaka police responded immediately, canvassing the area behind her home.
They spotted a set of glasses and a winter hat, both stained with what appeared to be blood, lying in the icy alley. These items became the first critical pieces of physical evidence, launching a methodical forensic sweep of the scene.
That must have been a harrowing discovery. How did investigators process the scene after finding those items? Did they call in specialists right away, or did the local officers handle the evidence collection themselves?
As soon as the blood was confirmed, crime scene technicians were called in. They worked through the frigid pre-dawn hours, meticulously cordoning off the alley behind Breana's house. Every inch was combed for trace evidence, fibers, hair, and blood drops. Investigators used luminol to trace blood trails invisible to the naked eye, mapping a path leading to a commercial dumpster behind Rully's Italian restaurant.
So the luminol revealed more blood? Did that lead directly to Breana's body, or was there more searching involved? And what condition was the scene in when they opened the dumpster?
The luminol illuminated faint smears and droplets, drawing a grim line directly to the dumpster. When officers opened it, they found Breana's body partially concealed in a black plastic garbage bag. Her scarf was tightly knot around her neck, and her upper torso was covered. The area was immediately sealed for forensic documentation. Photographs, sketches, and measurements were taken before the body was moved.
That's just heartbreaking. After securing the scene, what steps did the crime lab take? Were there any immediate signs of how she died, or did investigators have to wait for autopsy results?
Initial observations pointed to trauma. Blood staining and the knotted scarf suggested both stabbing and strangulation. However, official cause of death came from the autopsy, conducted the next morning by the St. Joseph County coroner. The report found multiple stab wounds, with one to the heart being fatal. The scarf had been tied so tightly, strangulation was occurring before she died. Forensic pathologists also confirmed Breana was about 6 months pregnant.
Did they recover any other physical evidence from the dumpster or the surrounding area? Things like fingerprints, hair, or fibers that could link a suspect directly to the scene?
Yes, they collected several key pieces. The black plastic bag, saturated with blood, was carefully preserved. Investigators dusted the bag and the dumpster lid for fingerprints, finding partial prints, later determined through AFIS, Automated Fingerprint Identification System, to match Aaron Trejo, Breana's boyfriend. They also bagged the scarf, her clothes, and the hat and glasses from the alley, all of which were submitted for DNA analysis.
Did the DNA testing confirm who the attacker was? And how long did it take to get results back? I know that sometimes the wait for DNA can be agonizing for families and investigators.
The Indiana State Police Laboratory prioritized the case due to its severity. Swabs from the scarf, bag, and Breana's fingernails were all sent for rapid DNA testing. Within days, analysts found a mix of DNA profiles. On her fingernails, primarily Breana's, but with clear male DNA present. This profile matched a buccal swab later collected from Aaron Trejo during questioning. You mentioned the scarf and the fingernail scrapings. Was there any evidence of a struggle, defensive wounds, or signs that Breana tried to fight back?
The autopsy detailed several defensive wounds on Breana's hands and forearms, classic indicators she fought desperately. There were also broken nails and tissue under her fingernails, which is why those samples proved so critical. Forensic analysis showed she'd clawed at her attacker, capturing skin cells that were later matched to Trejo's DNA.
That's incredibly strong evidence. Did investigators examine the knife or murder weapon? Was it recovered? And if so, what did forensic analysis reveal about it?
Trejo admitted to police that he took a kitchen knife from home, but after the murder, he threw it into the St. Joseph River. Dive teams were deployed, searching the icy water for days, but the knife was never found. Still, investigators relied on Trejo's confession and the wound patterns, which matched a blade of the type he described.
Without the knife, was there any concern about the strength of the case? Did the lack of a weapon create any doubt, or was the other evidence overwhelming?
While recovering the weapon would have bolstered the case, the convergence of physical evidence, DNA, fingerprints, and Trejo's confession was overwhelmingly persuasive. Prosecutors noted that the forensic timeline, witness statements, and Trejo's own words painted a detailed picture, even without the knife. The blood patterns, the precise location, and the matching prints all tied him to the scene.
With speaking of witness statements, were there any eyewitnesses or surveillance footage that helped reconstruct what happened that night? Or did investigators have to rely mostly on forensic evidence?
There were no eyewitnesses to the crime itself, but several neighbors reported hearing a brief commotion in the alley, but no one realized its significance until the tragic discovery hours later. A security camera from a nearby business captured a figure matching Trejo's description walking toward the alley shortly after. Although the footage was grainy, the timing and silhouette matched the timeline Trejo later admitted to during interrogation.
Did they find any digital evidence, texts, social media messages, or phone records that shed light on what led up to the meeting? How did they piece together the communications between Breana and Trejo?
Absolutely. Investigators seized both Breana's and Trejo's phones. While Trejo claimed he'd messaged Breana but didn't hear back, phone records showed he did have a service plan, contradicting his story. Digital forensics recovered deleted texts showing Trejo urging Breana to meet him that night. Data logs revealed their phones were both in the alley area at the critical time, further corroborating the physical evidence.
That's a huge contradiction. Did Trejo ever explain why he lied about his phone plan or the messages? And did investigators confront him with this digital evidence during questioning?
Detectives strategically confronted Trejo during his interview. When they revealed the inconsistency about his phone service, his demeanor shifted. Realizing the mounting evidence, he eventually admitted to orchestrating the meeting. He told detectives, "Breana waited too long," referring to the pregnancy, and confessed to planning the murder for about a week.
That's chilling to hear. What about the plastic bag found at the scene? Was it linked directly to Trejo's home? Did forensic analysis tie it back to him in any definitive way?
Investigators traced the manufacturer and distribution of the black plastic bag, matching it to a bulk set found in Trejo's house. Fibers collected from the bag were examined under a comparison microscope, revealing a match to the same brand and lot number. Additionally, dog hairs found on both the bag and inside Trejo's home supported the connection.
That's fascinating forensic work. Were there any footprints, tire marks, or other trace evidence that helped establish Trejo's movements that night?
Technicians documented partial shoe prints in the alley mud, consistent with Trejo's size and style of athletic shoes. No tire marks were found, supporting the theory that Trejo walked to and from the scene. Soil and gravel embedded in his shoes, later seized at his house, matched samples from the alley, further placing him at the location.
Did any forensic experts testify about the evidence in court? What did they say about the strength of the case, especially regarding the DNA and fingerprints?
During the pretrial hearings, forensic analysts from the Indiana State Police Laboratory detailed the DNA matches, the fingerprint analysis, and the fiber comparisons. One expert testified that the odds of the male DNA under Breana's fingernails belonging to anyone but Trejo were astronomically low. The partial prints on the dumpster and bag matched Trejo's right hand, further reinforcing the physical evidence.
Was there any evidence that Trejo tried to clean up or cover his tracks after the crime? Did he take any actions that complicated the forensic investigation?
Trejo attempted to eliminate evidence by disposing of Breana's phone and the murder weapon in the river. He also wiped his hands on the alley wall. Smears of blood matching Breana's DNA were found there. But his attempts were ultimately incomplete. Trace blood on his jacket and shoes remained, and the digital trail on his phone betrayed his movements.
That's a lot of detail.
Yes, there were contradictions. While Olivia described Breana as nervous but hopeful, another friend, Jenna McCarthy, said Breana had been distraught and scared in the days leading up to her death, worried about Aaron's reaction. Aaron himself initially denied knowing about the pregnancy, but classmates recalled overhearing him talk about not wanting to be a dad and expressing frustration that Breana waited too long. These conflicting statements made it clear that more was going on beneath the surface.
Did any forensic experts weigh in on the physical evidence found at the scene? What details did they uncover that helped clarify the timeline or implicate Aaron Trejo?
Forensic investigators meticulously processed the alley behind Rouhselang's home and the dumpster behind Pasquale Rulli's restaurant, where her body was found. They recovered Breana's glasses and a knit hat with bloodstains, and later found more blood spatter leading to the dumpster. The black plastic bag covering her head was traced back to a roll found in the Trejo family's garage. DNA analysis confirmed the blood on the items matched Breana. The autopsy was pivotal. It showed multiple stab wounds, with one fatal wound to the heart, and strangulation marks from a scarf tightly knotted around her neck.
How did investigators piece together Trejo's involvement from the forensic evidence and his changing story? Was there a turning point in the interrogation?
The turning point came during a second round of questioning. Detectives confronted Trejo with the forensic evidence, including the bloodstains and the plastic bag. When asked if he and Breana fought over the pregnancy, Trejo quietly admitted yes. He then confessed to bringing a knife from home, choosing it specifically to kill Breana quickly, and said, "I took action. I took her life." Trejo also admitted he had planned the murder for about a week, knowing Breana's pregnancy was too far along for abortion. He confessed to tossing her phone and the knife into the St. Joseph River, which was later corroborated by police divers who recovered the discarded items.
That confession must have been devastating for Breana's family. Did Nicole Rouhselang or other family members provide statements about their relationship with Breana and their reaction to the investigation?
Nicole Rouhselang was interviewed multiple times. In her initial statement, she expressed disbelief and grief, saying, "I woke up this morning and wanted to send her a text, but there'd be nobody on the other end." She was visibly shaken, describing Breana as bright, hopeful, and full of dreams. Dave Rouhselang, Breana's stepfather, said the family had no idea about the pregnancy or Aaron Trejo's involvement with Breana, emphasizing, "We didn't know anything about it." They repeatedly stressed their hope for justice and their devastation at losing Breana.
That's heartbreaking. Did experts on teenage psychology or criminal profiling weigh in on Aaron Trejo's motives or behavioral patterns? Was there any explanation for how such a young person could plan something so brutal?
Dr. Emily Carter, a forensic psychologist consulted by investigators, provided insights into the psychological dynamics. She explained that teenagers facing unwanted pregnancy often experience intense fear, shame, and isolation, which can lead to irrational or desperate actions. Dr. Carter noted Trejo's history of emotional withdrawal and avoidance, reporting that he showed signs of anxiety, possible depression, and a tendency toward impulsive decision-making. She emphasized that the combination of personal stress, perceived lack of options, and immaturity could contribute to the tragic outcome, but cautioned that planning a homicide requires a level of intent that goes beyond panic.
Did the school community or football team provide statements or reactions? How did they respond to the loss and the revelations about Aaron's involvement?
Mishawaka High School was deeply shaken. The principal released a statement expressing sorrow and support for the Rouhselang family. Football coach Mike Wilkins described Aaron as a quiet, dedicated player, saying, "None of us saw this coming." Teammates shared mixed reactions. Some recalled Aaron as friendly but private, while others mentioned he'd become increasingly withdrawn in recent weeks. The school organized a vigil for Breana, with hundreds attending to honor her memory and support her family.
Were there any other expert opinions about the evidence or the investigation procedures? Did forensic specialists highlight anything unusual about the crime scene or the autopsy findings?
Forensic pathologist Dr. Rachel Kim reviewed the autopsy report and highlighted several significant findings. The depth and angle of the stab wounds indicated forceful intent, while the tightly knotted scarf suggested premeditation in the strangulation. Dr. Kim noted that the presence of both stabbing and strangulation made this a complex, violent homicide, not a spontaneous act. Crime scene analyst Detective Mark Hughes commented that the blood spatter pattern matched Trejo's confession, confirming Breana was attacked in the alley and then moved to the dumpster. The matching fibers from the scarf and plastic bag further strengthened the case.
Did any witnesses or neighbors express fear or concern about safety after the murder? How did the local community react in the aftermath?
Many neighbors expressed shock and fear. Angela Greer, the neighbor whose dog barked that night, shared her worries about safety, saying, "I never imagined something this horrible could happen so close to home." Community members organized neighborhood watches and increased lighting in alleys. Local churches held support meetings for grieving students and families. The sense of loss and vulnerability was palpable, with many struggling to make sense of how such a tragedy could unfold within their close-knit community.
Were there any conflicting or controversial statements from witnesses that complicated the investigation? Did anyone dispute the timeline or the events leading up to the murder?
A few conflicting accounts did arise. One witness, Tom Landers, claimed he saw Trejo walking toward the alley at 11:10 p.m., but couldn't confirm if Breana was with him. Another, Emily Foster, insisted she saw Breana near her home at 11:25 p.m., appearing distressed and hurried. Investigators reconciled these accounts by matching surveillance footage from nearby businesses, which showed both teens entering the alley around 11:20 p.m. Though some minor timeline discrepancies existed, the forensic evidence and Trejo's confession ultimately clarified the sequence of events.
How did police ensure the integrity of the investigation, especially with so many young witnesses and emotional family members involved? Were there any procedural challenges?
Investigators took special care with witness interviews, bringing in school counselors and victim advocates to support traumatized teens and family members. Each interview was recorded and corroborated with forensic evidence where possible. Detectives also conducted multiple rounds of questioning to identify inconsistencies and resolve them through forensic analysis. The lead investigator, Lieutenant Alex Arendt, emphasized transparency and community outreach throughout, ensuring that rumors and misinformation didn't derail the process.
Did any forensic evidence or witness statements point to someone other than Trejo? Or was he always the primary suspect?
Initially, police considered multiple possibilities, given the lack of witnesses to the actual attack. Early on, detectives questioned whether Breana might have met someone else in the alley. However, no evidence supported another perpetrator. All forensic traces, including DNA, fingerprints on the plastic bag, and blood spatter, pointed to Trejo. His confession and discarded items sealed the case, leading investigators to focus solely on him as the primary suspect.
Did investigators or experts mention any psychological warning signs or behavioral changes in Trejo before the murder? Was there anything that could have indicated he was planning something violent?
Teachers and classmates described Trejo as increasingly withdrawn and irritable in the weeks leading up to the murder. He missed several football practices and appeared distracted in class. Dr. Carter noted these changes as potential red flags, particularly his avoidance of friends and decreased interest in activity. Still, the level of premeditation evidenced by his confession surprised many. No one suspected he was capable of such violence.
Did the school community or football team provide statements or reactions? How did they respond to the loss and the revelations about Aaron's involvement?
Were there any signs from Breana that she felt threatened or fearful of Aaron in the days before her death? Did she confide in anyone about her worries? Breana confided in Olivia Sanders about her anxiety over Aaron's reaction. She told Olivia, "I don't know what he'll do. I just hope he'll listen." Jenna McCarthy recalled Breana expressing fear but also determination to resolve things. Friends remembered Breana as hopeful but scared, highlighting her vulnerability.
Did the autopsy or forensic experts find any evidence indicating a struggle or self-defense? Was there anything unusual about the wounds or the scene?
The autopsy revealed defensive wounds on Breana's hands and arms, indicating she fought back during the attack. The pattern and depth of the stab wounds suggested rapid, forceful blows. Dr. Kim noted the strangulation marks from her scarf were so deep that they occurred before death, consistent with a violent struggle. The crime scene showed scattered personal items, her phone, glasses, and hat, consistent with an altercation in the alley.
How did investigators piece together Trejo's involvement from the forensic evidence and his changing story? Was there a turning point in the interrogation?
The turning point came during a second round of questioning. Detectives confronted Trejo with the forensic evidence, including the bloodstains and the plastic bag. When asked if he and Breana fought over the pregnancy, Trejo quietly admitted yes. He then confessed to bringing a knife from home, choosing it specifically to kill Breana quickly, and said, "I took action. I took her life." Trejo also admitted he had planned the murder for about a week, knowing Breana's pregnancy was too far along for abortion. He confessed to tossing her phone and the knife into the St. Joseph River, which was later corroborated by police divers who recovered the discarded items.
That confession must have been devastating for Breana's family. Did Nicole Rouhselang or other family members provide statements about their relationship with Breana and their reaction to the investigation?
Nicole Rouhselang was interviewed multiple times. In her initial statement, she expressed disbelief and grief, saying, "I woke up this morning and wanted to send her a text, but there'd be nobody on the other end." She was visibly shaken, describing Breana as bright, hopeful, and full of dreams. Dave Rouhselang, Breana's stepfather, said the family had no idea about the pregnancy or Aaron Trejo's involvement with Breana, emphasizing, "We didn't know anything about it." Breana left her house around 11 p.m. on December 8, 2018, to meet Aaron in the alley behind her home. Witnesses reported seeing them together around 11:15. By 11:30, the struggle occurred. The exact time is narrowed down based on neighbor testimony and phone data. Aaron disposed of her body in the dumpster by midnight, then walked home, discarding the knife and Breana's phone in the river on his way.
What did Aaron say during his interrogation? Was he cold or remorseful? Did he try to minimize his actions?
During interrogation, Aaron initially denied involvement, insisting he just waited for Breana, but she never showed. When pressed with evidence, blood, witness accounts, inconsistencies, he quietly admitted yes when asked if they fought over the pregnancy. He later confessed, "I took action. "I took her life," with a chilling lack of visible remorse.
That's so haunting. Did the police consider any other suspects, or was Aaron the only focus once all the evidence was gathered?
Early on, police interviewed several classmates, teammates, and even Breana's ex-boyfriend, but all alibis checked out, and no one else had motive, means, or opportunity. The physical and forensic evidence overwhelmingly pointed to Aaron, so the investigation quickly narrowed exclusively to him.
Were there any theories floating around? Rumors or alternative explanations that investigators had to rule out?
Social media buzzed with rumors. Some speculated Breana had run away. Others believed a jealous rival was involved. Investigators followed every lead, but surveillance, digital records, and testimony eliminated these possibilities. The sole theory that fit all evidence was Aaron's premeditated act to avoid fatherhood and responsibility.
Did forensic experts testify to anything unusual about the crime scene or the way Breana was killed?
Forensic pathologists noted the combination of strangulation and stabbing suggested a personal, rage-fueled attack. The scarf, knotted so tightly, indicated Aaron wanted to ensure silence and control. Multiple stab wounds to the heart were identified as the cause of death, all inflicted with a single, sharp kitchen knife brought from Aaron's home.
Was there any indication that Aaron had previous violent tendencies or behavioral issues?
Aaron Trejo had no prior criminal record or reported violent behavior. Teachers described him as quiet and focused on football. However, teammates mentioned he could be intense under stress. Psychologists later speculated about undiagnosed impulse control issues, but nothing concrete was found in his background.
How did Breana's family react when they learned Aaron was the suspect? Did they suspect him at first?
Breana's mother, Jessica, was devastated. She never suspected Aaron, seeing him as just a classmate. She told reporters, "I just want to know why." The revelation that Aaron, someone Breana trusted, was responsible shattered the family and community. Their grief was compounded by the betrayal.
Did the police find any evidence on Aaron's devices? Texts, searches, deleted files that helped build their case?
Detectives recovered deleted messages between Aaron and Breana, as well as Google searches about abortion timelines, crime scene cleanup, and legal consequences for minors. This digital evidence demonstrated planning and consciousness of guilt, strengthening the prosecution's case.
Did Aaron ever express regret or try to justify his actions during or after his confession?
Aaron's confession was chillingly matter-of-fact. He claimed he had no other choice, blaming Breana for waiting too long to tell him about the pregnancy. He did not express genuine remorse. His statements were cold, suggesting a disturbing detachment from the brutality of his actions.
Were there psychological evaluations done on Aaron after his arrest? Did experts testify about his mental state?
Aaron underwent a psychological evaluation as part of pretrial procedures. Experts found no evidence of severe mental illness, but noted signs of emotional immaturity, poor coping skills, and a profound inability to process consequences. He was deemed competent to stand trial.
How did the community react to the arrest and the revelations about Aaron's motive?
The Mishawaka community was rocked by shock and grief. Breana's classmates held vigils, and the high school provided counseling. Many struggled to reconcile the image of Aaron as a star athlete with the reality of his actions. The case ignited intense debate about communication, reproductive rights, and teen mental health.
Were there any major twists or surprises as the investigation unfolded, or did the evidence always point to Aaron?
While Aaron was always the primary suspect, the level of premeditation shocked even veteran detectives. His confession, the planning, and the cold execution, all from a 16-year-old, were deeply unsettling. The only real twist was the brutal clarity of his intent once all details emerged.
Did the police consider any other suspects? Or was Aaron the only focus once all the evidence was gathered?
Early on, police interviewed several classmates, teammates, and even Breana's ex-boyfriend. But all alibis checked out, and no one else had motive, means, or opportunity. The physical and forensic evidence overwhelmingly pointed to Aaron, so the investigation quickly narrowed exclusively to him.
Were there any theories floating around? Rumors or alternative explanations that investigators had to rule out?
Social media buzzed with rumors. Some speculated Breana had run away. Others believed a jealous rival was involved. Investigators followed every lead, but surveillance, digital records, and testimony eliminated these possibilities. The sole theory that fit all evidence was Aaron's premeditated act to avoid fatherhood and responsibility.
Did forensic experts testify to anything unusual about the crime scene or the way Breana was killed?
Forensic pathologists noted the combination of strangulation and stabbing suggested a personal, rage-fueled attack. The scarf, knotted so tightly, indicated Aaron wanted to ensure silence and control. Multiple stab wounds to the heart were identified as the cause of death, all inflicted with a single, sharp kitchen knife brought from Aaron's home.
Was there any indication that Aaron had previous violent tendencies or behavioral issues?
Aaron Trejo had no prior criminal record or reported violent behavior. Teachers described him as quiet and focused on football. However, teammates mentioned he could be intense under stress. Psychologists later speculated about undiagnosed impulse control issues, but nothing concrete was found in his background.
How did Breana's family react when they learned Aaron was the suspect? Did they suspect him at first?
Breana's mother, Jessica, was devastated. She never suspected Aaron, seeing him as just a classmate. She told reporters, "I just want to know why." The revelation that Aaron, someone Breana trusted, was responsible shattered the family and community. Their grief was compounded by the betrayal.
Did the police find any evidence on Aaron's devices? Texts, searches, deleted files that helped build their case?
Detectives recovered deleted messages between Aaron and Breana, as well as Google searches about abortion timelines, crime scene cleanup, and legal consequences for minors. This digital evidence demonstrated planning and consciousness of guilt, strengthening the prosecution's case.
Did Aaron ever express regret or try to justify his actions during or after his confession?
Aaron's confession was chillingly matter-of-fact. He claimed he had no other choice, blaming Breana for waiting too long to tell him about the pregnancy. He did not express genuine remorse. His statements were cold, suggesting a disturbing detachment from the brutality of his actions.
Were there psychological evaluations done on Aaron after his arrest? Did experts testify about his mental state?
Aaron underwent a psychological evaluation as part of pretrial procedures. Experts found no evidence of severe mental illness, but noted signs of emotional immaturity, poor coping skills, and a profound inability to process consequences. He was deemed competent to stand trial.
How did the community react to the arrest and the revelations about Aaron's motive?
The Mishawaka community was rocked by shock and grief. Breana's classmates held vigils, and the high school provided counseling. Many struggled to reconcile the image of Aaron as a star athlete with the reality of his actions. The case ignited intense debate about communication, reproductive rights, and teen mental health.
Were there any major twists or surprises as the investigation unfolded, or did the evidence always point to Aaron?
While Aaron was always the primary suspect, the level of premeditation shocked even veteran detectives. His confession, the planning, and the cold execution, all from a 16-year-old, were deeply unsettling. The only real twist was the brutal clarity of his intent once all details emerged.
Did the police consider any other suspects, or was Aaron the only focus once all the evidence was gathered?
Early on, police interviewed several classmates, teammates, and even Breana's ex-boyfriend. But all alibis checked out, and no one else had motive, means, or opportunity. The physical and forensic evidence overwhelmingly pointed to Aaron, so the investigation quickly narrowed exclusively to him.
Were there any theories floating around, rumors or alternative explanations that investigators had to rule out?
Social media buzzed with rumors. Some speculated Breana had run away. Others believed a jealous rival was involved. Investigators followed every lead, but surveillance, digital records, and testimony eliminated these possibilities. The sole theory that fit all evidence was Aaron's premeditated act to avoid fatherhood and responsibility.
Did forensic experts testify to anything unusual about the crime scene or the way Breana was killed?
Forensic pathologists noted the combination of strangulation and stabbing suggested a personal, rage-fueled attack. The scarf, knotted so tightly, indicated Aaron wanted to ensure silence and control. Multiple stab wounds to the heart were identified as the cause of death, all inflicted with a single, sharp kitchen knife brought from Aaron's home.
Was there any indication that Aaron had previous violent tendencies or behavioral issues?
Aaron Trejo had no prior criminal record or reported violent behavior. Teachers described him as quiet and focused on football. However, teammates mentioned he could be intense under stress. Psychologists later speculated about undiagnosed impulse control issues, but nothing concrete was found in his background.
How did Breana's family react when they learned Aaron was the suspect? Did they suspect him at first?
How did Breana's friends and classmates remember her in the wake of the revelations?
Friends described Breana as kind, optimistic, and devoted to her family and friends. She was known for her smile, her dedication as team manager, and her passion for helping others. Vigils were held in her honor, and her classmates created a scholarship fund in her name to support young women facing unplanned pregnancies.
Did the case lead to any broader changes or discussions at the state or national level?
The case reignited debates on youth violence, reproductive rights, and the responsibilities of schools and parents in supporting vulnerable teens. Lawmakers in Indiana proposed bills to improve mental health resources and require mandatory reporting training for school staff. The tragedy became part of a wider national conversation.
Were there any surprising character revelations about Trejo or Breana as the investigation unfolded?
Investigators were struck by the contrast between public and private personas. Trejo, the disciplined athlete, was secretive and increasingly isolated in the weeks before the murder. Breana, outwardly cheerful, was quietly struggling with fear and uncertainty. This duality made the crime all the more shocking to those who knew them.
Did Trejo ever try to explain or justify his actions in court or public statements?
Trejo made no public statements beyond his confession. In court, he answered procedural questions but refused to address the court or Breana's family directly. His silence left many questions about his true feelings and motivations unanswered.
Were there any final, unexpected twists before the case went to trial?
Days before the trial, the prosecution received an anonymous tip with screenshots from a private chat group showing Trejo discussing solving his problem weeks before the murder. While not admissible as direct evidence, it reinforced the narrative of prolonged planning and intent, closing any lingering doubt about premeditation.
That's an incredible amount of detail and heartbreak. What were the final major breakthroughs that sealed the case before it reached the courtroom?
The combination of Trejo's confession, forensic evidence, digital footprints, and witness statements left no room for reasonable doubt. The recovery of the murder weapon and Breana's belongings, the matching DNA evidence, and Trejo's own words, "I took action, I took her life," ensured the prosecution's case was ironclad.
Thank you for walking me through every twist and revelation. This case is so tragic, but understanding how these breakthroughs happened is crucial.
In the aftermath of Breana Rouhselang's murder, the legal proceedings moved with a gravity that reflected the community's shock. On December 12, 2018, just 4 days after Breana's body was found, Aaron Trejo was formally charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of feticide, as Indiana law allows for the prosecution of the death of an unborn child alongside the mother. Investigators painstakingly reconstructed the timeline, Breana's last known movements, Trejo's actions, and every item of physical evidence recovered from the scene.
After Aaron was charged, what was the community's reaction? Did people believe justice would be served, or were there doubts about the investigation and prosecution?
The community's response was a complex mix of grief, anger, and disbelief. Mishawaka High School students organized vigils, leaving notes and flowers near the alley where Breana was last seen. Many struggled to reconcile the image of Aaron, a popular sophomore football player, with the brutality of the crime. Some questioned how someone so young could plan and execute such violence, especially against a teammate and friend. There was widespread demand for a thorough investigation and justice for Breana and her unborn child.
What specifically did the investigation focus on after the initial arrest? Were there any lingering questions or doubts about Aaron's confession or the evidence?
Investigators zeroed in on Aaron's digital footprint, scrutinizing his phone records, social media activity, and any communications with Breana or others in the days leading up to the murder. They also re-interviewed witnesses, including students who had seen Breana in the hours before her disappearance and staff who recalled interactions between Breana and Aaron. Forensic teams returned to the crime scene multiple times, collecting fibers, blood evidence, and any trace materials from the alleyway and dumpster. Despite Aaron's confession, detectives noted inconsistencies in his initial statements, particularly his claims about their meeting and his attempts to conceal his involvement.
Was there any evidence that suggested Aaron didn't act alone, or that someone else might have been involved or aware of his plan?
Investigators explored that possibility thoroughly. They examined phone records to see if Aaron had communicated with anyone about his intentions, and they spoke with close friends and teammates. No credible evidence surfaced that implicated another party in the planning or execution of the murder. However, some classmates reported that Aaron had seemed agitated in the week leading up to the crime, and one witness claimed he'd overheard Aaron talking about not wanting to be a father, though no one realized the gravity of those words until after Breana's death.
Did Aaron ever explain in detail why he chose that specific night and location for the murder? Was there a significance to the alley or the dumpster behind the restaurant?
According to the affidavit, Aaron told detectives he'd planned the murder roughly a week in advance, choosing the alley behind Breana's home because it was secluded and familiar. The restaurant's dumpster was just a short walk away and provided a place to quickly conceal the body. Aaron admitted to bringing a black plastic bag from home, intending to use it after the act. He said he wanted to end it quickly, which is why he brought a knife and stabbed Breana in the heart. Prosecutors later emphasized the premeditation, citing Aaron's step-by-step preparation.
How did forensic evidence support or contradict Aaron's confession? Were there any discrepancies between his statements and what the investigators found?
Forensic evidence largely corroborated Aaron's confession. The autopsy revealed multiple stab wounds, with a fatal wound to the heart and evidence of strangulation from Breana's scarf, which had been tied so tightly that asphyxiation was occurring before death. The presence of the black plastic bag, blood evidence in the alley, and Breana's personal items all matched Aaron's account of the crime. Investigators also found text messages on Aaron's phone that contradicted his initial claims of not having recently spoken to Breana, reinforcing the prosecution's case.
Were there any unresolved questions about Aaron's motive, or did his confession provide a clear picture of why he killed Breana?
Aaron's confession revealed that he was primarily motivated by anger and fear regarding the pregnancy. He told detectives neither he nor Breana wanted to have the baby, and expressed frustration that Breana had waited too late to tell him, eliminating the option of abortion. Psychologists later testified at sentencing that Aaron demonstrated signs of emotional immaturity and poor impulse control, but also a chilling capacity for calculated violence. Some experts argued that his actions reflected a profound inability to cope with responsibility and social pressure.
Did the defense present any alternative theories, such as mental illness or outside influence, or did Aaron's guilty plea bring those arguments to an end?
Aaron's legal team initially explored a potential mental health defense, requesting psychological evaluations to determine his competency and mental state at the time of the offense. However, after months of legal maneuvering, Aaron surprised the court by pleading guilty to both murder and feticide in October 2019 during what was supposed to be a routine status hearing. This plea effectively ended further exploration of alternative theories in open court, though the psychological reports were referenced during sentencing.
What were some of the most significant details revealed during the sentencing phase? Did any new information about Aaron's background or Breana's final moments come to light?
During sentencing, the prosecution presented a timeline based on surveillance footage, witness accounts, and digital evidence. They outlined how Aaron left his home around midnight, met Breana in the alley, and attacked her. The court heard from Breana's mother, who described the panic of searching for her daughter and the moment she realized something terrible had happened. Aaron's family, meanwhile, spoke of his previously unremarkable behavior and academic record. Psychological experts detailed Aaron's lack of prior violent incidents, but noted a pattern of emotional withdrawal in the months leading up to the crime.
What sentence did Aaron ultimately receive, and how did the judge justify the decision?
On January 7, 2020, Aaron Trejo was sentenced to 65 years in prison for murder and an additional 10 years for feticide, to be served concurrently, totaling 75 years. The judge cited the horrific nature of the crime, the planning involved, and the vulnerability of both victims as aggravating factors. The sentence reflected the maximum allowed under Indiana law, underscoring the court's view of the crime's severity. The judge called it a tragedy that defies understanding, acknowledging the pain inflicted on both families.
Is Aaron eligible for parole, or will he serve the entire sentence? Has he made any statements since his conviction?
Under Indiana law, Aaron is required to serve at least 75% of his sentence before he becomes eligible for parole, which means he will likely spend over 50 years behind bars. As of now, Aaron has not made any public statements, expressing remorse or offering further explanation. His family has maintained a low profile, and his defense team has not commented beyond the formal proceedings. The lack of closure has left many in the community with lingering questions about Aaron's state of mind and the warning signs that may have been missed.
Were there any ongoing investigations or civil lawsuits related to the case, such as against the school or others who may have known about the pregnancy or Aaron's intentions?
While there were initial calls to investigate whether school officials or classmates could have prevented the tragedy, no formal civil lawsuits have been filed against the school district or individuals connected to Breana or Aaron. The school undertook a review of student support protocols, particularly around pregnancy and mental health, but internal investigations concluded that staff were unaware of Breana's pregnancy and Aaron's plans. Law enforcement also found no evidence of prior threats or actionable warning signs reported to authorities.
Were there any unresolved mysteries or conspiracy theories that have persisted despite the official resolution of the case?
Some community members have speculated about whether Aaron truly acted alone or whether he confided his plans to anyone who failed to intervene. Online forums have debated the timeline, with some questioning how